This is Papa Smurf. You're listening to Our Lifestyle, the podcast, with ODB and the Mayor.
Yo, this is Rob Margie, and you're listening to Our Lifestyle podcast.
Yo, it's Our Lifestyle podcast, episode 363. And if you're new to our channel or podcast, please consider subscribing, following, whatever that app that you're watching or consuming this content on. Whatever it says, smash it and give us a follow. Thank you so much for the continued support. On this episode, it's going to be more of a OLP, I'm going to say special edition episode. So every couple weeks, you'll kind of hear me say that we're not going to have the standard flow of the banter between Mike and I. We're going to just jump right into the subject, and that's what I'm about to do. I will give a huge shout out to our title sponsor, Scrapin' the Coast. That's every June in Biloxi. Shout out to our kinfolk there. It's SCRAPIN, thecoast.com. Again, this event is a Mini Truck Hall of Fame inducted event, and it's truly one of the all-time great shows out there in the show scene. So without further ado, big ups to Scrapin' the Coast. But this episode, if you saw the thumbnail on YouTube or you're just the typical return listener, we thank you. And what I'm going to do is break down the history of Street Trucks Magazine. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to go from the beginning to now. I'm going to actually go from kind of the story, if you will, on how it started. Some of the reasonings behind that. We'll hear from Brian McCormick. We'll hear from Steve Stilwell, rest in peace. We'll hear a little bit from Courtney Halowell, what I will refer to throughout this episode as the three amigos. And those three enthusiasts, right? Hardcore enthusiasts really got us to the point that we are. And that's, again, what I want to share now with everyone. So basically what I want you to know is Street Trucks went on sale 25 years ago today, if you're a Day One listener, on June 29th of 1999. Talk about partying like it's 1999. Now, we know this because of the press kit, which we'll get into a little bit later. More than likely, most of you have never seen this. It's a very rare item, so we will talk more about it. But it gives us that line in the sand, June 29th, 1999, the day that Street Trucks went on sale. But Street Trucks, many of you know this if you're a long-time reader. Maybe you read early on. Hopefully you're a continued reader, continued supporter. But Street Trucks was created by true enthusiasts, and I'll continue to always say that. Their combined magazine industry at that point was about 45 years, give or take. If you think Truckin started in 75, and I don't know exactly what year Steve started there, but give or take, let's say at the early days from 75 to 2000, that's 25 years. And then basically you have Brian McCormick and Courtney Halowell. At this point, they've got about 10 years in, give or take, a little bit more, a little bit less. So that's what gets you to the 45 years. If just those three guys at that time, again, this is 25 years ago. Now, the famed leader, Steve Stilwell, unfortunately, he passed away 2 years ago in 2022. He left Truckin' Magazine, and although, some might have said, hey, Steve, you're down right now because you're leaving this organization that you helped really build to 300 to 400 pages of a publication. The key thing was he was not, he might have been down, but he wasn't out, right? So what Steve did was he basically parlayed his amazing skill set and his eye for everything, trucks, into something arguably bigger and better. And that was a key word: freedom. The freedom to create an all-encompassing custom truck publication. Now, together, along with his cohorts, Brian McCormick and Courtney Halowell, rest in peace, they began a journey that really is still paying dividends to the scene today, 25 years later, if you think about it. Again, I know some of you are going to say, hey, I used to read Street Trucks, maybe you're not a magazine reader anymore, I would tell you go support the magazines, and you'll hear me throughout this episode say that. Now, a couple of other things I want to mention. I am wearing one of the Street Truck shirts. This is an old school. This is not the original logo. I get it. This was under Travis Nowak's tenure there with Mulligan. So I am wearing this OG authentic shirt. There's some history to it. And of course, I got my Devious Customs hat on. Shout out to Jeff. The reason I'm doing that is today is his born day. Happy 51st born day to Jeff. But you'll also see Courtney, rest in peace, in this video. He's wearing a Devious Customs shirt. Of course, Courtney and Jeff have a long history together, so a little behind the scenes there. Now, if you think about this for a minute, I mentioned Truckin and I mentioned the good old year of 1975. Next year, or depending on when you're watching this, in 2025, that marks the 50th anniversary of Truckin magazine. Now, of course, Truckin did shutter, unfortunately, a few years ago. But if you think back to Steve's history, I know he wasn't the only guy there, but Steve really, in my opinion, was a huge major influencer for shows, for shops, for trends, for everything that was custom trucks. And for those that don't know that name, if you're a truck enthusiast, you need to know the name Steve Stilwell. We want to continue to reiterate his importance, his significance to the custom truck scene for years to come. And not just custom trucks, even classic trucks. Now, this is one reason why the Mini Truck Hall of Fame, we collectively as a committee renamed the Editor Award to the Steve Stilwell Media Award. And that will play in more as we go forward with the Mini Truck Hall of Fame. And I know some of you are going, well, hey, Mini Truck Hall of Fame, street trucks. The reason why I'm saying all this is, again, Steve Stilwell was at the helm at Truckin for so long, and that is where he was at prior to coming over to Street Trucks, which we're going to talk about. He also was the editor of Mini Truckin. So, he was there at the infancy, and that's how he ties into the Mini Truck Hall of Fame, so to speak. Now, what I want to do is I am going to share, I don't want you to think this whole time is going to be talking. I am going to share some key stuff. I am going to narrate a little bit here as we kind of go through some key dates, but I will show some B-roll footage, and we will also cut away to other audio and video. So this is going to be definitely all-encompassing episode, pun intended. Now, what you may not know is the filing for the Street Trucks trademark that was submitted on January 15th of 1999, right? So 7-8 months prior to the first issue being August of 99. Now, this coincides with Brian McCormick's recollection, both on OLP and our friend Brandon Burrell, who has Modified Rides podcast. So check him out as well. He did a very in-depth and awesome interview with Brian McCormick. And in both OLP's interview and Brandon Burrell's interview, Brian McCormick mentions, having basically that entire 1999 year to ramp up, give or take about 6 months, if you will, because this first issue, which again, we will look at in just a little while, this ultra rare press kit, again, for most of you has never been seen, and possibly a select few of you have seen it, but the majority, I would argue, haven't. We will look at that, and again, that's what tells us late June, so about that, 7 months into the year is when the publication went on sale. Now here I want to go ahead and jump over to some of the audio with Brian McCormick when we had him on, and he'll talk a little bit about why Street Trucks was created.
That, this is, that was part of the reason of why we did Street Trucks.
Yes, and I kind of heard some of that.
To get back to grassroots, that was, and again, that was the core of why we did it. There was other things in which we can go into that, but was to get back to that grassroots core, pure enthusiast kind of magazine. Yep. Coming from Truckin, it became corporate because we were corporate owned, several times over. And, that to us, that pure enthusiasm kind of a core was kind of lost. It was being replaced with, everything we have to do is based on ads and so on and so forth. And, there's a reason why that has to be. I mean, you
Sure.
got to, magazines make money, and that's why a lot of magazines aren't here today. Is just can't, they couldn't fulfill that obligation.
100%.
Thankfully, we were at a time where, we could, and it's a time when magazines were still the iconic means of communicating that enthusiasm to people. And, that's been such largely replaced with social media, but, this was all pre-social media, and that's for us, it was a perfect time to venture out and do our own thing. I mean, there was other forces involved that ushered in this, but, the transition was started with Steve Stilwell, who was like basically a father to Courtney and I, and
Mm-hmm.
Mike, and pretty much everybody there at Truckin at the time who came and went. I mean, he left and he went to Mrs. Yee, who had started Y Visionary Publishing. Mrs. Yee was the widow of Ken Yee, who was part of McMullen and Yee back in the Truckin days.
Most enthusiasts know that Courtney Halowell, when you think of Mini Truckin magazine, you often think, yeah, Courtney was there. Courtney was the editor, right? But this might blow your mind. Although Courtney had landed arguably his dream job, editor of Mini Truckin magazine, that started with the September 98 issue. Okay, so the easy way to remember this is that was the 10th anniversary issue, so September 98. What you may not realize is that Courtney Halowell was only the editor for how many issues? How many do you think? If you guessed 8, that is correct. He was the editor from September of 98 until April of 99, so it was that was issue 88 at that point. Now, that's, of course, in terms of what he gets credit for as the editor in the publication, right? Now, Courtney was loyal to Steve, and if there was ever a way to show it, it was saying goodbye to Prime Media, right? So over on the Truckin, basically Mini Truckin side, formerly, of course, it was formerly referred to, many of you will remember McMullen Argus, right? So there's history there. But basically, he says goodbye to Prime Media at arguably the height of his publishing career. Now, there's no other way for me to say, wow, that is loyalty. So, again, you'll hear from Brian, where Brian talks about when they left Prime Media, not only did Steve leave, but he had two of his most loyal, best guys, so to speak, said, hey, we're coming with you, man. Don't leave without us. We got your back. Now, Y Visionary Publishing, who you will see throughout, and you'll hear me kind of refer to them, and Brian McCormick as well. Y Visionary, that is the publishing house behind Street Trucks at the very beginning. Of course, that eventually sells, and that leads to kind of the end of the story that I'll be sharing on this episode of the podcast, which is how the magazine, the original Three Amigos, how they end up leaving, because there's always like that, wow, this was such a great magazine for so long. How did the run of your favorite TV show end? How did Yellowstone end? How did Seinfeld end? How did the original Three Amigos end? And we'll, of course, share that on this episode. Now, Y Visionary Publishing, along with Steve Stilwell and team, they were off and running. And thanks to Ronnie at Flat Out DVD, we have a glimpse into what it was like to work at Street Trucks circa, this is 2003, kind of, I'd say early 2003. Let's take a look at it now.
Hey, welcome to Street Trucks Magazine. This is where it starts every day. We all pull up in the same parking lot, and our beautiful building here at 265 South Anita Drive in wonderful downtown Orange, California, where the sun is always shining and the birds are always singing. Let's go inside and check out what a glorious life we lead here at the magazine business. There we go. Yeah. This is the art department. These are the guys that make us look good. They take our photographs and turn them into pages in a magazine. We also rely on the artists for the latest news. As it turns out, we didn't know this, but Saddam and Osama are in love, as revealed in their shocking secret life. Who knew? This is the break room where we have vending machines. They're taking stock in what's going on in the machine, and my suggestion is pork chops. Needs to be in the machine. Yeah, in the courtyard, they were nice enough to install this cement pond for us because they don't pay us very well here. They expect us to catch our own lunch every day, so we've got a fully stocked pond and some fishing poles and a barbecue out back. They're delicious. This is the front door to the editorial offices. Come on in. This is Brian McCormick's dark cave. It's summertime, so he's not here. He's out shooting an event somewhere. So we'll sneak in and check it out. One of my favorite aspects of Brian's office is the chronological documentation of all of the vehicles that Brian has owned, from the Beastie Cruiser to his red short bed to the first incarnation of Beastie Cruiser to his Suburban, his full-size two-wheel drive, his full-size 4x, his half-ton, his Tahoe, even back to the old days of his Blazer and his Toyota. That's right, Brian McCormick was a mini trucker. Won't admit it. He was a mini trucker. Well, Mike self-boned out and went to Del Taco, so we'll take a look in his office that's partially a crafts room for the romantic homes people. Over here we have a craft center that the ladies from Victorian homes and romantic homes use to craft things, I guess. There's lots of ribbon and frilly stuff. And on this side of the partition is Mike Self's office. Lots of die casts and pictures of his various projects and his fiancée, Marissa. They're getting ready to get married. This is Steve Stilwell, editorial director here at the Y Visionary Publishing, and I'm going to hand you off to him because there's not enough room for all this crap and me and him and that camera in this office. So,
well, hello to everyone, and I'm the editorial director of Street Trucks Magazine. I have been in this business for probably longer I'd want to admit, and we started a couple other custom truck magazines, moved over here about 4 years ago, and good part about it is we can be as creative and loose with the editorial as we desire to be. And we've done a lot of experiments. We've changed the industry somewhat. Now that we produce an all-color magazine, we've forced the industry to follow us along, and we've done cutting-edge development of layouts and things like that. So best part about it is we're user-friendly. If our readers want us to do something in particular, we pay attention. All the emails that come in, we read them. All the letters that come in, we also read those, and from all that, we do like to keep it to where everyone's happy with our publishing. Everyone's happy with the magazines that we produce, which are Drag Racer, Import Racer, and Street Trucks of the automotive group. Unlike the other books, we are the all-encompassing book where we put in four-wheel drive lifted type trucks, as well as mini trucks, as well as even full-size and the classics. And sometimes it's a pretty tough recipe to follow, but we've been able to do it, and our readers really like it.
First office you come to is my office. It's a mess, so be careful. It's full of truck parts and truck memorabilia from a dozen years or so of being a magazine editor. The filing cabinet of death. If you've got a sticker and you want to send it to Street Trucks, odds are it's going to end up on the filing cabinet.
All right, so super cool, and I got to thank Ronnie at Flat Out, a true innovator in our scene, had the vision to start a DVD magazine, if you will, in those early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. And what we heard in that video is, Courtney, it's so cool to see that. You know, so many people say, wow, thanks for sharing some of these short videos via social media. And, you know, to be able to watch that here on YouTube it's just mind-blowing knowing that he's such a beloved person and we get to hear him talk. It's just great. But Courtney mentioned 265 South Anita Drive, Orange County. I piped in a photo as well to kind of show an image of what that looks like now. I'm always intrigued by that. And I don't know if you caught it, but when Courtney pulled in with his full-size Chevy, as he walked around and he eventually got to Steve's office, you could see Courtney's truck in the background. So Steve's office was kind of right there to the left of where Courtney had pulled up there at their headquarters. Now, did you know that Street Trucks Mag, they came out of the gate swinging with an all-color magazine, or as Steve mentions, and many will call it in the industry a book, right, is kind of the insider term for a magazine. Now, Steve stated this, of course, on the Flat Out DVD, and I'm going to pipe in a couple of different pieces, so I'll have to see where they kind of fit. So if I reference something and it hasn't been played yet, you'll either hear it or you already just heard it. Now, during Steve's departure, the former employer kind of gave him the middle finger with a one-off issue, and it wasn't just to Steve, it was to all of them, I think, in this new venture, if you will. So I'm going to show you that a little bit later. I've hinted at this in the past, and I think I did a short video in the past, but that was called Street Truckin. So you could see where Truckin was maybe a little bit of peeved off from their departure, but more on that just in a few minutes. Now, in addition, something that I thought was interesting, about 5 years ago, I was at Relax in the Northwest, The Awakening, and I was chatting with Brian from Grinder TV, and we were talking about street trucks. At that point, that was the 20th anniversary. That late July when we were at the show, and we were talking about, wow, 20 years ago. And Brian, who's a good dude, Brian says, I remember in 99 at one of the truck runs, and Courtney stood up and he said, hey, we have this new magazine coming out. And he kind of had everybody gather around and people were listening to what he had to say. And maybe he had some parts of the press kit. I don't know how far along it was. Brian McCormick also recalls that happening. So we're going to listen to some of that audio right now. And I was talking to Brian Good from Grinder recently, and he was telling me that he kind of remembers how he swears, he goes, dude, I think it was like a council run or something. He goes, I think Courtney stood up and told us like, hey, there's going to be this new magazine. I forget if Stilwell was there, but he just thought it was so cool that, they kind of shared that with the group, because everybody knew how important the magazines were. So
it's funny you say that because my memory's for shit. And it's funny you say that because I remember him doing that, and I want to say it was maybe one of the last spring splashes. Mm-hmm. I want to say that's what it was, and unfortunately Courtney's not here to verify that, but I think that's what it was. I vaguely remember that now.
Yeah, Brian, I went to the Oregon show a few weeks ago, and he was like, yeah, he goes, I swear I remember and he just thought it was so cool because that it was like, the mini truckers out there, of course, like there's that tight-knit community. So he just always thought it was awesome that, even though you guys were spearheading this new thing, that you guys weren't like, the mag wasn't too big to like say, you know what, we're going to share it because these guys are going to be all the guys buying it, All right, so super cool. Again, Brian was able to recollect a little bit of that as well. Maybe you recall that. If you do, please add comments. I love kind of diving into this stuff a little bit more and hearing from many of you. Now, what I want to do here is talk about the press kit. So during the first quarter of 99, as the team is ramping up Street Trucks Venture, one of the things on their to-do list is going to be to create press kit. Now, arguably this could have been done kind of in the second quarter, but whether it was like kind of March into April, that time frame, more than likely when they really start pulling things together, they've got to create this press kit that I'm going to show you guys here in just a moment. Now, for those that don't know, an ultra important way for a message to kind of get out on said product, musician, artist, etc., is via a press release, right? So those have been around forever. Now, as time went on, press releases technically are still a thing that happens today. Press release happens every single day. Although, especially, I would say, probably in the 70s and 80s, but I would say 80s and 90s, these press kits really took off. And the press kit was sent to key people and or groups in the media to highlight a product or something that was to come. Now, you could think of back in 1993, for instance, Snoop Doggy Dogg, that's what he was called back then. When his debut album was about to launch, basically Death Row Records puts together a press kit, which included a couple of black and white 8x10s to use in print. So with these photos that would have been shared, and I'm not sharing them now, I'm just showing you the actual press kit. But with these photos that were shared, that allowed for a publication to go reprint it, to put it into like a newspaper article, a magazine article, etc. Now, this was the booklet of sorts that kind of told the story of Snoop Dogg, so to speak. Now, keep in mind, these press kits have become ultra collectible by super fans who want to kind of get their hands on anything related to said product, artist, company, etc. And this is one that's in my collection. Again, Snoop Doggy Dogg. You've got the Joe Cool kind of artwork baked in with the wall, that famous brick wall that we see kind of everywhere now, that Snoop owns Death Row Records. And then you kind of have this story, and then you have on the right kind of a little mini interview shooting the stuff with Snoop learning to rap on Doggy Style, being a label gang member, believe it or not, they put that in there, on Dr. Dre, on Success, and on Being Real. So kind of cool stuff there. Now, in the premiere issue of Street Trucks, you're going to see a photo of Steve Stilwell, and this was taken by his wife, Donna. He's got the trench coat on, and there's two images here on the screen that you're going to see. The one on the right is in another section of the magazine, and the one on the left is from Steve's editorial where it says, "Did I mention that I am really happy?" Now, it always intrigued me. If you look at the inside of his trench coat, you see Chris Schmidt's Sonoma, you see the F100 and the 3100 Chevy here. And I always thought, like, were those other potential covers that were in the discussion to potentially be used? And Brian McCormick really kind of put that other truck discussion to the rest, because when we spoke with him, we kind of asked him about that, and he said, hey, there was never any doubt that Big Mike, a.k.a. Mike Hoffman's full-size, was going to be on the cover, right? So there was no doubt that that was the truck. But, of course, what you're going to see in the press kit is there were a few other flyers, promo items, if you will, that were made, and that did allow for them to either get the word out or at least maybe sit down one day and go, hey, look, here's what we're looking at. And, of course, they knew Mike Hoffman, the OBS truck, what we call them now, that was the best one for them to launch with the premiere issue. Now, I was still intrigued by the other potential covers that led me to discussing the topic with my friend Chris Schmidt from Negative Camber, New York. Now, Chris, as I understand it, is the East Coast rep for Negative Camber, which is fitting for him. My relationship with Chris goes all the way back to the 1990s. We've had Chris on before, but back in those days, we were communicating via email long before social media. Now, what I'm going to do now is go ahead and show you, many of you for the very first time, let's take a look at the press kit and see what's included with it and see some of the key trucks that they highlighted with this awesome ultra rare press kit. Okay, so we have this unique perspective. This is something that you may have never seen. This is the actual press kit right here. Again, thanks to Chris Schmidt for looking out. Basically, you have Chris Schmidt's Sonoma that was on the cover of Mini Truckin'. You have the Ford F100 and then the OBS that is featured in the first issue of Street Trucks. And then you have a few of the various photos there, including Corey Brown's Nissan. He goes on to build another one that's featured in Street Trucks that runs on the cover of Mini Truckin'. And then rest in peace, Ryan Leonard. He builds, they basically show off that project in the first issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you this, then I'll show you kind of the individual items for anyone that's interested. You have Street Trucks Magazine targets the immense $7 billion specialty automotive industry, the all-encompassing editorial mandates Street Trucks Magazines to be the publication of choice for all owners of pickups and classic trucks. That was a key thing that they were trying to really reinforce. And then here is the back. You have that original logo with the trademark. and a few of the images there. Okay, with the folder open and the internal papers removed, you basically have, this was kind of cool, Alan Budnick's full size that, of course, was in with the cover of Sport Truck. You have Mason's F-150, and I love how they did this, where basically it looks like it's laid flat above the two folders. And then you have this Blazer, and again, pretty cool. This would have been, very, very nice for someone to kind of take apart and start to look at and go, wow, these guys mean business. Here are the papers that come with it. So basically this would have been reinforcing one of the key aspects of any magazine, which is going to be the advertising contacts and some of the things to expect. You have the mission statement. Let's take a closer look. Destined to quickly become the most widely read custom truck publication in the nation. They definitely were coming out swinging with that. And you could imagine, if the folks over at the competitors got their hands on this, that would have been reason for them to want to maybe come out with street trucking, if you will. You could see here, again, need mandates, why visionary, publishing to launch Street Trucks Magazine, continued growth. So they talk about some of the key numbers that you would want to reinforce to any of the potential advertisers. There's industry snapshot. This was pretty cool. Again, a lot of this stuff now is obviously, online, right? But in this era, you would have had these printouts. They talk about some of the folks that, the education levels there of who's reading. And obviously that's a key thing, how much people are making, in terms of you want to have advertisers that are going to be spending some money, and hopefully that they'll be making some money. Here you have the bullet pointed Steve Stilwell, Brian McCormick, Courtney Halowell. So that editorial team, which is key. And you got the Street Trucks insignia. And then this would have just been kind of promoting some of their other publications. And last but not least, this is kind of the poster promotional item, if you will, that features Chris's truck on it. Of course, this was also seen when Steve Stilwell in issue number 1, when he has the trench coat open. We see here the on sale date, June 29th. We also see the OBS up here where, that truck is featured in issue 1. So they had some good tie-ins. And then this image itself also appears in issue 1 as one of the ads, if you will, to try to get folks to subscribe to the publication. So pretty cool. And then, oh, by the way, it's not just white on the back. Dear fellow truck enthusiasts. So these could have been given out. Maybe Courtney at one of the shows, Brian McCormick, he mentions recalling at one of the runs, Courtney mentioned, hey, this new magazine's coming. So let me know if you've ever seen this in the comments, or did you pick one up, or did you get one somehow because you were in California or you knew Courtney? Very curious. But again, thanks again, Chris Schmidt, for looking out. Street Trucks press kit, possibly the first time you've ever seen this. And one of the most important things of this press kit is, of course, this card. Rest in peace, Courtney Halowell, Why Visionary Publishing. There is the address that Courtney mentions in the video when he pulls up at the headquarters there. And, of course, Chris and so many of you had a great relationship with Courtney. And how cool is it to still have his card there? Rest in peace, Courtney Halowell. Yo, so I hope you enjoyed that. And again, I got to thank Chris Schmidt for looking out. My brother from another mother. He said, yo, ODB, I got you. You know I got the goods, and I know you like the facts. So let's get it down to Florida, and let's get it in your video. Now, let's break down the press kit just briefly. So we see Chris Schmidt's GMC Sonoma was one of the, what I refer to as what if covers, which Courtney, for those that did not know, shot at Booger Bash 98. This ran on Mini Truckin Magazine, June 99 cover, which was issue number 90. Ironically enough, I mentioned just a little while ago, Courtney's last issue, technically on paper, was issue 88, but there's no doubt that he had his thumb on that June 99 issue, and others. Of course, with him shooting and him probably really pushing the envelope, so to speak, saying, hey, this truck needs to be on the cover. Now, ironically enough, he had those photos and they were able to kind of parlay them over a little bit here on this What If cover and some of the ads that you'll see in the first issue, one specifically. Now, not only was Chris's truck on the proposed cover art, but there was also the F100, the Chevy 3100. Steve was, of course, a hardcore classic truck guy, and this was him flexing by basically going, hey, we are the all-encompassing custom truck publication. Remember, Steve said that in the video from Ronnie at Flat Out. Now, if you look closely, you're going to see another proposed cover, which was the black and purple full-size, which I think I did mention, and that was a super cool truck that was featured in the very first issue. Now, the premiere issue, we're going to take a quick look at it here in just a moment. We're going to actually flip through it, and I know some of you are going, hey, when I consume YouTube, I'm used to kind of consuming a little bit shorter videos. I get it. Podcasts, of course, ours can easily be 30 minutes to 2.5 hours, but stick with me. If you do happen to have to take a break, pause it. Please come back. If you can finish this full episode, it certainly helps our channel. I really appreciate it. So although Street Trucks went on sale June 29th of 1999, the first issue was technically the August 1999 issue. Now, this is a traditional way for a magazine to launch, especially when they know that they're not just testing the waters. You know, Street Trucks knew that they were there to stay, but they did need, as Brian McCormick will say in his audio with us, they needed a little bit of room to kind of ramp up. That also helps them sign the deals they have to, distribution and things like that. But basically, hey, we got 6 months left in the year. We're going to put out 3 issues. Bi-monthly is that industry term. And we're going to then be full steam ahead January of 2000. Now, again, if you think back to Mini Truckin', though, back in the good old 1988, that magazine started as like a special edition because they probably were testing the waters. What are sales going to be? Are people going to be asking about issue 2 and things like that? So you can see where things had changed from 88 all the way to mid 1999. So August 99, October 99, and December 99, those are the first 3 issues, and I'll try to show an image of each of those here. So August, skip September, then you have October, which is issue 2, you skip November, and then you have issue 3, December of 1999. Basically, once they hit 2000 January, for the last 24, call it 25 years, they have been a monthly publication with a couple of special edition and one-off issues here and there. Now, a quick promo for the magazine industry. I write a column for Street Trucks, okay? Full disclosure. But I would tell you this. Even if you don't like maybe one particular issue of a magazine, to me, subscribe if you can, or buy a few issues on newsstands, because I will tell you, I came from the era where we had Truckin', Mini Truckin', Sport Truck, Street Trucks, Tailgate, right? And we had some other publications kind of sprinkled in there as well. And then we've had a bunch of homegrown magazines. If you're a fan of something, do whatever you can to support it, if at all possible. Now, what I would like to do now is let's look at a flip through of the very first issue. I'll talk a little bit about each of the pages as we go through the premiere issue, talking about the history of Street Trucks magazine right now. Okay, as I mentioned, we're going to do a flip through. This will be a little quicker than the normal one, possibly. And you see on the top, it's the premiere issue. You got to have it. We, of course, have Street Trucks, which they had here listed for a long time. The original Street Trucks logo. Cutting Edge Customs right underneath their message, the all-encompassing custom truck publication. You can see the TM there for the trademark, which I mentioned was submitted in January of that year. Meet the staff, of course, you got the 3 amigos, as I call them, Steve Stilwell, Brian McCormick, and Courtney Halowell. And then you come out of the gate pretty strong with some awesome events. We see August 99. This would have been displayed, according to the press kit, went on sale June 29th, 1999. And then, of course, till 8/24 of 99. In terms of the binding, you can see there, it says Street Trucks, August 1999. And it is the premiere issue. So let's jump in here and we'll take a look. We have the Beltec ad. This was the famous kind of new body style ad. And of course, you've got in the upper right 1990, 1996, and 1999, kind of showing the heritage there. You see Mike Kaufman's, which I didn't mention on the quick intro, but you have big Mike Kaufman's truck on the cover. You also have it here on the table of contents, which is a super cool photo. One thing that you'll notice is typically in the magazine, they would have a little small write-up that would say, hey, a little introduction, if you will, to say, hey, Mike Kaufman's truck on the cover, shot by Brian McCormick. This issue did not have that. You can see the table of contents was packed with tons of information. And then one of the other kind of cool call-outs, very minor, but you got Steve Stilwell, editor, and it's whip cracker, intimidating editor, and chef the editor for Courtney. So they kind of had a little bit of fun there with some of the titles. So word on the street, this is something I believe that's technically still going with the magazine. And I've done some flip-throughs of this, but I wanted to do it with this kind of history of street trucks. That way you get a chance to see. And of course, you've got Last Look. Now, I'm going to ask for you guys' favor. You can send this to anybody that may have access to this. I don't have it up right now, but there is a video, kind of like I don't want to say a home video, but it was homegrown from Cal Concepts. And if you or anybody has access to that video, please let me know. It kind of was in one of those clamshell cases, I think, those old VHS cases. And Craig remembers them selling those. And I don't know how many still exist, but he said there's some good footage on there that he wanted me to see. So if you ever come across that or know anybody that might have that, I'll show the image of the cover in the future because I do have a photo of it. Rest in peace, Ryan Leonard. And I'm sorry, I don't want to smash the middle of this magazine down because it is one of 2 copies I have. But you can see here one of my favorite renderings. I don't know what it is. Just probably the fact that it's topless. Pat Maxwell did this rendering, and you've got Project Pathfinder there. We saw a brief photo of this in the press kit, which is a cool thing, and you'll notice that if you look closely at it. Here you have the editorial team, and I've always talked about this famous photo. Down here at the bottom, it says Donna Stilwell. She took that, and of course you have those posters or parts of the press kit, if you will. You can see the 2 classic trucks, and then of course the Sonoma. Meet the A-Team. Did I mention that I am really happy? Of course, Hal at Godfather Customs, rest in peace. He was a big supporter out of the gate. Here you have Bill Turner, Nuts and Bolts. Empire Motorsports, they were around a long time. I don't think technically they are, but there's other vendors out there making similar stuff now. This was cool, right up the line of not just Steve Stilwell, but also Brian McCormick, the 55 Fat Block. Really cool. Just love that haze. And when Brian McCormick was recently on Brandon Burrell's podcast, he talked about, the photography and certain times of the day, certain times of the year to even shoot. He's definitely just one of the greats. Here you can see Parts Counter, which is something that they've kind of kept around in some form or fashion for a very long time. Check this out. It's cool to go back and see, some of that stuff that is hard to find. I mean, there are vendors now that make that stuff, but, sometimes it's not even made as well. So it's always cool for me to look back in this stuff. Here you got Colorado Custom. They were a huge supporter in that era of print mag. Here you have Brian McCormick. Welcome to my world. Now fasten your seatbelts. And I went back recently and was pulling some audio from when we had Brian on many years ago. And it was cool to hear him on Brandon Burrell's podcast. Here's Paso 99, so Paso Robles or Robles. This is where I have taken one of the photos I've shared before in the past. I love that photo. I would always love when they would do, this is kind of old school now because, this is like a film, right? This would kind of indicate like 35 millimeter film, but I always like when they would kind of do that. But you could see some pretty cool trucks there, including the Master Image Customs Sonoma. And again, they did that here again. Their layouts were super clean. I think it was something a little bit different, especially for that era. Syndicate of Style, which happened to be, I think, the same title that Cal magazine used when they featured this, a very rare feature. And I have shared that in the past, but This certainly came out of the gate really swinging with Big Mike Kaufman's truck on the Paradox Colorado Custom wheels. You could see Cal Concepts and Air Syndicate really killed it on the paint. I love that this little hinged area where you see the batteries and more. And of course, everything is painted here as well as underneath that wheel. I've shared some very rare video with that wheel not there at one of the shows. Engine bay was all painted, frame was painted, everything was chromed or polished. And interior was that oatmeal kind of color, super clean. And these layouts were always amazing to me. A front 3/4, a rear 3/4. Now this issue, I do have the card. Probably this is the one I ripped out to send in because it was hard to find. This is my actual issue. This was also cool that they put the photo, not the first time that this has probably ever been done, but you didn't see a lot of this, with the publications, taking the build photos and incorporating them into a cover feature. Super clean, love the offset on the wheels, just a timeless truck. If this truck, it does still exist, it does not look like this anymore, but I think like this would be like in a museum. I could see a truck museum from our era. This was super cool. Again, you've got the gas filler relocated to the driver door deal, the chrome strikers, super timeless. A lot of people worked on this one. I know I mentioned a couple names, but we've had most of the people on in reference to that truck. We haven't had Mike on, but, Gendro and R Customs and Cal Concepts, some of the bigger names that were tied in. This is cool. Wyatt Hertz, Electric Avenue. So this was kind of like the car stereo, auto electronic part of it. Here we have Keeping You in Stitches. That was kind of cool. We saw that Blazer at Mini Nats this year, the old MIC Blazer. Here is the Subscribe Today. This would have been key because this tied into that press kit, but also kind of just showing that they are going to shoot and share mini trucks. Some of this old merch, man, I'd love to see this stuff. I had a shirt. I had this actually white shirt here. I wore the heck out of it until it, I think the ring around the collar was pretty bad. I had to let it go years ago, but love that old stuff. This, of course, ties into the fact that it's all-encompassing. So you've got your classic truck here, super clean, even by today's standard. This is a truck that is timeless. I think this could pull up at a show now, and people would go head over heels for it. Certainly, a lot of the C10s are built to different calibers, but this is, one of those C10 trucks I think is certainly timeless. Huge wheels even kind of look for that day. Here's Going the Way of the Buffalo, 2 Trick CK treats signal the end of an era. So kind of talking about, we often talk about 88 to 98, but let's not forget those body styles went into 2000, believe it or not, and that's just kind of a standard process. Here is Floored, and this truck can also be seen a little bit on the press kit, and it's a super clean one. I remember this feature. I swear in some of Brian McCormick's editorials, he used this as his backdrop. This is super clean. I mean, how often do you see a bed that clean, but then has flames laid down that tie into the headliner? Here we get to Armed and Dangerous, and this was basically the first mini truck featured. I read this feature over and over again. I love blue trucks. Mine was blue, although a different color, but look at all the tweed. Just really well done. Phantom grille, billet wheels, very, very nice. Western Truck Nats. So you got some classic trucks in here. Of course, they weren't going to leave out tech articles. Now, this page, although they were an all color publication, you can see here, technically this is black and white. So that was probably the company's ad. Here's Grocery Getter, something a little bit different. So again, the SUV with Colorado Custom wheels. And check this out, some of you younger kinfolk won't even remember this era, way before even TVs in the headrest, and now it's, we moved into like fold out radios and stuff, but that's what you had for a while. You had the consoles with an actual TV screen, old CRT monitor. Here's Colorado Custom ad again across the bottom. Suicidal tendencies, tech article on suicide doors, super cool. Kind of an in-depth, again, flexing their muscles coming out of the gate. Here's understated. And this was Corey Brown's truck. He went on to build another Nissan that would be featured here, and then also grace the cover of Mini Truckin Magazine. If you're digging this so far, leave a comment, even if it's an emoji thumbs up. That helps us, and share this with anybody that you think might appreciate the content. Again, we're going over the history of Street Trucks Magazine, kind of how it started, and the original cast of characters that really helped lay down this amazing foundation of a publication that we've enjoyed for now 25 years. Here's Riding on Air, a tech article. And then Steve Stilwell mentions in the video that Ronnie did when he was with Flat Out, that Drag Racer magazine was also under their publication, or under their umbrella. This was cool. I've shared this before on Father's Day, like father, like son. So you have just a super cool setup. And Sean Dell, of course, with Sideshow, aka Ahead of You. Not only, for those that don't know, this truck had different wheels on each side at this time. You can see the wheels there, and you can see the wheels there. But that was his dad's COE. And super cool. Again, just awesome stuff. And great era. Another classic truck tech article. Here you have the 9th annual Friesen in Motion first run. Look at that. You got Bill Carlton's van. We talked about the history of that thing a ton. There's a shot of the engine bay, but you can just see a lot of stuff here. And this is cool because you got radars, space cab. Imagine being in the first issue. How cool that would be. Here you get a Tahoe 4-door, kind of something a little bit different. West Coast Nationals. I always like sharing some of these photos. You had the epic shoot here with Craig Elder's Suburban. Yeah, you had Shondell there, the Ranger. This was always a cool photo to me, kind of just showing the field. Of course, Bob Hayes and team behind this one. It's Bob Grant, that famous Suburban. We used to go on the website all the time, and I remember watching a video like in the early 2000s on the website of that thing just cruising down the interstate with music playing. It was like basically a ripped VHS type video, home video. It was awesome. And you can just see how much cool stuff here. Again, Colorado Custom. You see the chop shop set up with, I think that was Brian's, was it a wagon or was the big body Impala at the time? And then you have Colorado Custom. This was cool. Road Fools. This lineage back to Negative Camber, Florida. So Tim and Todd going out there, and of course Brett's in this as well from Severed. But this was a cool thing, going on a road trip. Facelift, snug lid. This was cool. The best $250 I ever spent. Courtney Halowell, his write up, The Last Word. You've got Cal Truck Jam, August 15th. And there's that one of the epic photos there, the lifted and the lowered. And there's Ghetto Bob. So there you have it. Let's get back to the rest of the history on the first street trucks. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that. And what I want to do now is I want to look at a Did You Know? So I'm sharing a couple of things here. This was not Mike Kaufman's first full-size Chevy that was featured. Okay, so Mike Kaufman, I'm going to call him Big Mike. That's my understanding. That's his nickname. If you look here, you have Truckin of April 93 on top. This is a photo I took, part of my collection. And shout out to Down to Earth. I know Mike is really patched in with those guys. He's a good dude, and he's been around a long time. Shout out to Chris Kudo and the entire DTE crew. Now, I still remember thinking, wow, is this the same truck? As it turns out, I've been told that it's not. But ironically enough, imagine having a truck featured in Truckin, which was like the publication, right? Especially back in 93. Extended cab, And then, oh, by the way, 6 years and a couple months later, boom, you've got the cover of the premiere issue of Street Trucks. Pretty awesome. Now, if anybody has any other intel between the correlation between these two trucks, I would certainly love to hear it. Now, here's another Did You Know? So this is a quick wrap-up. You may know this, but Street Trucks Magazine did a killer tribute to the 10th anniversary, which was August of 99. So August of 99, 10 years later, August of 09. Big Mike's truck once again graces the cover, well, in form of an artistic vision, but a super awesome way to say happy 10th anniversary, and you can kind of see that there. Now, Travis Nowak and Jason Mulligan were at the helm at this point, if I remember correctly. They did an amazing job paying homage to the magazine. Now, a couple of key callouts I want to mention is you've got the ST, I want to say Sever Ties. You have the Street Trucks logo had changed to the newer logo that you see. It's also the same that you see on my shirt. And what they did was on the back window of Big Mike's truck, you see that original Street Trucks logo. You also see it here across the pages of the publication. You have Mulligan's full size, if I remember correctly, in the foreground. And then this is kind of cool if you've never noticed this. There is a remote control boat in the water bucket. That was probably a nod to Travis bringing boats into the mix over at Truckin, which I didn't necessarily mind. But I thought this was super cool. And then, of course, on here, you can also see some more pages in between. So this magazine kind of wraps around the two trucks. And then, although it's the original logo, we see Jason Mulligan, Travis Nowak, Jeremy Cook, Mike Self, Courtney Halowell, rest in peace, Brian McCormick, and Steve Stilwell. So we see their names kind of laced through there. Now, the water hose, to me, I don't know how you guys feel, kind of was a nod, at least, back to probably the ballistic cover. You know, who would have thought to put a water hose there? And sure, you could be washing a full size. It doesn't have to be a mini, but I thought that was super cool. Bottom line is you really have two timeless full-size trucks. Okay, Street Truckin', what the hell? Yes, so I mentioned this earlier. August of 99, you have the Best of Truckin' magazine. They drop a one-off issue. You know, these are kind of sister publications, if you will. You can see Prime Media down here in the lower right corner. This was kind of a middle finger from Prime Media to the new publication out there that was called Street Truck. So Street Truckin', and what they did was, this was, of course, as I mentioned, a best of. So they took all of their best stuff and they put it into the issue. There's some good gems in here, and I don't know any other person that has this. This one, it looks a little wrecked because years ago, this photo I took when I found it at my parents'. This is one of the trucks that, or one of the truck magazines that somehow got misplaced over the course of time, and it was cool. Like Mitch Rawls' full-size Ram is in there, and I remember sending him a photo that day saying, hey, I don't know if you ever knew this, but they also ran it in this publication. So Joe Musso's Yoda's in there. There's some good gems. Again, all kind of remixed, not necessarily remixed, but just reused, if you will, from other publications. Now, does this really matter? I don't think so, in my opinion. You know, Truckin' continued on very successfully, but of course, down the road, they did dwindle away. And if you think about it, Street Trucks is still in circulation. Speaking of which, as I mentioned earlier, go out and support the real deal and subscribe. Okay, so why did the three amigos say goodbye to Street Trucks? You know, they started this publication, as I mentioned, the trademark was submitted in January 99. They come out of the gate late June of 99, and then, oh, by the way, that first issue, August of 99. What we're going to do now is let's hear from Brian McCormick, and he'll talk about why they left the publication. Like, when I heard something recently, like, so you think about, you guys hit the floor running, and we all love this magazine, and I could go through, you know, however many issues that you guys were all there as a team, and then something kind of happened. Was that some corporate takeover stuff? And then they go, well, now we got you, Steve, and now you're gone again. You guys lasted for years, but was there a story behind that on why you guys ultimately left?
Yes, there was. The guy that ran, and I said I don't need to mention any names, but the guy that was the corporate guy that was in charge of the publishing company that owned Truckin at the time, none of us got along with him, and he's the one that had a conflict of personalities, and that's basically what it was with Steve, again, our father.
Mm-hmm.
And after whatever it was, 5-6 years, Y Visionary had sold and been bought by a company that, lo and behold, that same guy was put in charge of.
Yeah.
So yeah, that it basically, we were like, nah, we're not having any part of this. We've already been down this road. We know exactly what's going to happen. And
all right, thanks, Brian, for sharing that information with us here at OLP. And to Brian's point, Y Visionary, that was acquired on September 8th of 2005, which was roughly, give or take 6 to 6.5 years into Street Truck's endeavor. So, you think 99, that summer of 99, plus 6 years is going to get you to, basically September of 2005. But the team was there months before that, ramping up this amazing publication. But I will tell you some of my favorite issues of all time, from issue 1 all the way through that mid 2005 to third quarter 2005, just some of the best magazines ever. So, something I want to do here just to kind of wrap this up. And okay, so what I'd like to do is kind of wrap this up. And again, this was kind of the story for how the magazine started and the original casting characters, right? Those three amigos, why they ended up leaving, right? We also looked at the press kit. We looked at a few things that you maybe have never seen, and we shared some information like, hey, when was the trademark submitted for Street Trucks? January 99. But here's something you may not know, and I wanted to kind of end with this. We have covered how the magazine started, some of the early days. Ronnie at Flat Out, of course, gave us some really good insight, which was super cool to see, and to all these years to revisit it. They left Y Visionary about 5 to 6 years into the journey. And ironically enough, they landed at another publication over at, you'll hear Brian McCormick refer to 10.
Thankfully, at that time, Todd Horn, who was previously in the Truckin days, was one of our ad salesmen. He had started a group of magazines called 10 Magazines, and it was basically, it was 10 Truck World, and it had all these online magazines, Tacoma World, and so on and so forth, and was looking to grow his content and his readers. And he thought, heck, man, here's the quote unquote A team. I have the opportunity to bring them on board. And they said it just kind of worked out so perfect for us, because we were like, we didn't want any part of the old regime that was now in the place where we had built. And so we had a great opportunity to go work at 10. So Courtney, Steve, and I, we all gave our notice the same day. So we're out, and went over there. But I will say it was not hard. I'm sorry. It was not easy. It was very hard to do that, to leave Street Trucks.
Yeah, because you guys had created, for lack of better terms, like magic, dude. I mean, it was that good.
Well, it's just we knew the outcome. We knew that the clash of personalities between them and us wasn't going to work. It already had not worked in the past and was not going to work again.
Mm-hmm.
So we knew that, even if we tried to hang on, we weren't going to hang on, and things would go sideways. So, but I can tell you from myself and Courtney and Steve, all of us, it was not an easy decision to make, because none of us are quitters.
Yeah, sure. But to your point, you saw you had the foresight to go, we know we're going to get potentially railroaded here. So it's like, you know what? We're going to control our own destiny.
Exactly.
Got it.
That's how that came about. And we were at 10 for, I guess, 3 years, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
And that was it was kind of a challenging time, because it was that time of trying to bridge that gap between print and digital.
Mm-hmm. The Enthusiast Network. These are super rare these days. And Brian also mentioned this on not only OLP, but on Brandon Burrell's Modified Rides podcast. But here is one of the issues, one of the few issues that I own, and believe it or not, it had Craig Elder's Ford I think it was an F350 technically, maybe a 250, but F350 basically. And it had that on the cover, one of the 4x4 trucks that he built. Now, these issues pretty much are hard to find because you can't just go online and type in Trucks Magazine. You're going to get everything under the sun. But if you happen to have any of these Trucks Mag, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you, whether you want to part with them, if you want to donate them, if you want to somehow get rid of them. But even if you just have the photos of some of the covers that I don't have, I'd like to try to put those together. Our lifestyle podcast at gmail.com. So there you have it. Is there something in here that you really appreciated? You know, seeing some behind the scenes stuff, seeing some of the old footage from Ronnie at Flat Out, maybe just going through some of the dates that you weren't aware of, right? We can look back at history. This information isn't always easy to find. It's out there typically, but to be able to pull it together, that's one of my favorite things to do. And if you like what we're doing here at OLP, check us out on YouTube. If you're listening or consuming via a podcast audio app, you're going to have an enhanced experience via YouTube because of what we share and we bake into some of that B-roll footage. I would also ask if you want to support us by buying some stickers or anything such as that. You can hit up ourlifestylepodcast.com. We've got some new stuff out there. We've got a brand new website, and we accept pretty much any form of payment. We really appreciate the support. Any money that we make basically goes back in to fund the podcast hosting, the website, and so many other little expenses that it takes to be able to pull this content together. So we really appreciate all the support. To Courtney Halowell, rest in peace. Steve Stilwell, rest in peace. And Brian, continuing to, come on these different podcasts and share some of the old school stuff. I read his editorial every month. It was one of my favorite ones to read. And of course I read the magazine front to back, but I always loved reading Brian McCormick's editorial, even back in Truckin. And there's so many good people over the course of time, myself and others that were on staff that also helped this magazine, especially from 99 until September, October, if you will, kind of late 2005. So thanks to Chris Schmidt for sending over some of the press kit. And I want to thank our title sponsor, Scraping the Coast, for all the continued support. To all of our sponsors and our supporters and the people that partner with us, we can't thank you enough. Shout out to Devious Customs. If you need air suspension parts, hit up Jeff and team. He's the go-to guy for all the Lincoln parts as well. And of course, I got to thank Chris Hamilton. Something I'll say, Chris years ago gave me an opportunity at Street Trucks. You can see the premiere issue right over. I'm bad about this. Right over here. Can I point that way now? The reverse thing throws me off. But I want to thank Chris Hamilton for allowing me to write a monthly column. It's now been, I can't believe this. I sometimes have to check myself. I think it has been now 7 years. And I just am blown away that I've had that opportunity. Chris hooked me up with this shirt years ago. So thanks, Chris Hamilton. And go subscribe to Street Trucks. That's one of the only few national publications you can get your hands on. And salute to the team that started this amazing publication, one of my favorite magazines of all time. I think that's it. I had to do this video well in advance, so if I forgot anything, my apologies. I'm technically on vacation this week, and I still made an episode come out for everyone, so thank you for the support. With that being said, I don't know that I'll hit you with another episode next week, but we'll hit you up soon with another episode of our Lifestyle Podcast. Your Mini Truckin headquarters. That's what the sign says. ODB. We got ya. Peace. But wait, there's more. What I'm going to do now is, number one, thank our title sponsor, Scraping the Coast. Thanks for the continued support. But a huge shout out goes out to all the viewers and all of the enthusiasts worldwide. I can't thank you enough for consuming this content however you find it. Also, a couple things. I'm going to show another clip, kind of a B-roll clip for this video, if you will, thanks to Ronnie at Flat Out. And this is another piece that Courtney did while Ronnie was visiting Street Trucks headquarters back in 2003. I'm going to play that here in just a moment. And then at the end of this video, I'm going to link over to the audio interview. I played some of the audio in this episode, but for anyone that's curious, maybe you're new to OLP, you can listen to the entire Brian McCormick interview. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to try to upload it, and that way you can just listen just to that interview, and you don't have to listen to the pre-banter, because that is basically at this point like 5 years old. So I'll go ahead and try to re-up that audio, and again, you can listen to it. He talks a little bit more in depth about the connection, with him passing away, and then his widow, obviously, which he mentions, helped spearhead, with Y Visionary and what they had going on. They helped fund Street Trucks and get it off the ground with Steve and team. So definitely interesting. And again, Brian is fantastic at kind of just giving some great details. So I'll link to that at the end. Last thing, I do want to apologize. I don't know what happened, but in this episode, there was a couple of audio clips and just things that drive me crazy. So if you did make it through, thank you. That had nothing to do with my microphone, and it had nothing to do with anything that I've done locally here. I'm not, hitting the desk or anything. For some reason, it had something to do with the software that I've been using to record these videos. So a little frustrating. Typically in post-production, I can fix some of that, but certainly I could not this time because of the fact that it just was baked into the software. So I almost wanted to scrap the episode because of that. However, I just thought it was too much good content, and I didn't want to go back and re-record all of that because of those few handful of audio kind of anomalies. But with that being said, you're tired of hearing me talk, I'm sure. Stay on the rise. And again, if I don't hit you with another episode, have a safe 4th of July weekend if you're a day one or week one listener. And if you can share this with the friends, the homies, the chicas, the club mates, anybody that you would appreciate or that may appreciate this content, it's certainly well appreciated. Shout out to Jeff at Devious Customs. Don't forget to renew your street trucks. And big ups to the original cast of characters, the Three Amigos, for starting arguably one of the greatest truck magazines of all time. ODB, like I said a minute ago, this time I mean it. I'm out here. Peace.
One of the most asked questions of any magazine editor, doesn't matter what magazine they work for, when it comes to the automotive side of things, is what does it take to get my truck featured in your magazine? Well, I can't tell you exactly what it takes to get your truck featured in the magazine, but I can give you a pretty good idea of what will keep your truck from getting featured in the magazine. And we've come up with a list of 10 reasons that we would look at your truck and sort of be like, okay, well, give us a call when you get it all sewn up. Stock wheels or wrecked wheels on your truck. If you haven't polished your wheels since the day you took them out of the box, or if they're stop sign shaped, odds are we're going to send you packing. Number 9, you haven't washed your truck since the Clinton administration, odds are we're not going to point a camera at it. Hygiene is a very important tool that you could use to make your truck look better. Keep it washed, keep it waxed, keep the tires dressed. Try to keep it from looking like you've parked it in a bird sanctuary, if you know what I'm saying. And number 8, if it looks like a homeless guy's been living in your truck and there's bags from McDonald's behind your seat and grease all over your carpet and CD cases strewn about, no luck, Chuck. Number 7, if it's missing parts, if we come up and the windshield trim's missing and the heater and AC vents are gone and you got a dash bezel missing and you don't have any door sill plates and one of your door panels is missing and you don't have a gas door, don't bother asking. It's got to be a complete truck. Number 6, a bone stock engine compartment. Come on, how hard is it to put in a K&N FIPK kit? Maybe a set of headers, little dress up thing here and there, make it look good, clean it off, wash some of that grease that's been collecting on your valve covers and other components. Just blast it off. It ain't all that hard.
Number 5, if it looks like you had your bodywork done at the School for the Blind, probably not going to cut it. Waves are for surfing, man, not for the side of your truck. Number 4, cracked or broken windshield. You have no idea how many times we come up to a truck and it looks bitchin', but it looks like the guy's been following around a gravel truck. The windshield's got a big crack in it, pits in the headlight, stuff like that. It all shows up on film. That's probably not the way you want your truck remembered in the magazine. Number 3, stickers, stickers, stickers. It's one of my personal pet peeves. If you've got every logo under the sun running up and down your king cab windows and your back window, better whip out that razor blade before you go looking for a magazine guy to shoot it. Number 2, another magazine's already shot it. So you just got done with a photo shoot from magazine A, and then you come over and ask a guy from magazine B to shoot your truck. Man, we all communicate, we all talk, you're just wasting our time. Once you decide that you want a magazine to shoot your truck, pick which one you want to go with, talk to those editors. You got to remember, we only run 100 trucks a year, total. 100 trucks get shot, 100 trucks get run on the magazine, there's 12 covers. If you're playing one magazine against the other, it's not going to get you anywhere. And number 1, you ripped off your roll pan the minute you got to the show. You're cruising around with your buddies, you think you're going to be the cool guy, you're dragging through an intersection and a manhole cover reaches up and bites your roll pan. We're not going to shoot your truck if it's got the roll pan flopping around in the breeze. And it happens more often than you even know. You come up, bitchin' truck, and the roll pan is flapping in the breeze. Yeah, don't fall victim to that. Wait until your truck gets shot for the magazine and then go out and rip the roll pan off. So that's our list of 10 things to watch out for if you're going to talk to a magazine guy to try and get your truck featured. Doesn't matter if it's a video magazine like Flat Out or a printed magazine like Street Trucks. We're all looking for the same thing. Thanks.